Okay, so we need to start this deep dive with some really difficult news. It came out of Taiwan back in July 2025. We learned that at least 3 women died.
Hmm.
And these were in legitimate, cosmetic medical places. And the connection, they'd all had these procedures called milk injections.
Mm.
Now, just to be clear, we're not talking about like actual dairy milk here.
No, no.
It's apparently a common term, maybe a bit misleading, for a type of cosmetic filler.
Mm.
People use it to get that softer, brighter, sort of youthful look.
Right, a popular treatment.
Exactly. And it's a shocking headline, obviously. It really caught our attention because it leads us straight into what we want to explore today. We're looking at excerpts from this really fascinating article, True Beauty, Beyond Cosmetic Lies. The authors are Fuchi Wu, known as A, and DAGE, or published out of Taipei. But our goal here isn't just to report the tragedy. It's really to dig deeper and challenge a belief about youth and beauty that, well, let's be honest, a lot of us probably hold, maybe without even realizing it. And what this article suggests, well, it might actually flip your whole understanding of health and beauty upside down.
Yeah, what's really striking here, and maybe a bit counterintuitive at first, is that the source says these deaths weren't because of allergies or, some kind of hidden poison or even a botched procedure in the way we usually think of it.
Right. That's where my mind went first. You look for the mistake, the external thing.
Exactly. But instead, the article points to something much more subtle, maybe more insidious. They call it a wrong belief. Or as they put it, a value trap that, well, potentially countless women worldwide have fallen into, maybe without even knowing it.
A value trap.
Yeah, it suggests this wasn't just some isolated medical accident. It's more like a systemic issue, rooted in a really deep misunderstanding of what health actually is.
Okay, a value trap. That phrase really sticks. So you're saying the root cause wasn't necessarily what was in the needle, but more about a belief system that led them there in the first place. What exactly is this wrong belief the authors are talking about? Because I have a feeling it's something we've all sort of absorbed from culture, from advertising.
I think you're right. The specific belief they really zero in on is this one. As long as you have money and courage, youth can return.
Wow.
Just think about that for a moment. It sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So empowering almost.
Yeah, like you can conquer aging.
Exactly. This idea that aging isn't just natural. It's something you can fight, maybe even reverse, if you just throw enough money, time, and, well, courage at it. And that's what makes it such a powerful lure, That's the trap they're describing. We want to believe it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the alternative, just time passing that, can feel like loss or something we can't control.
Yeah.
So this idea is almost irresistible.
I totally get that pull, that promise of defiance, of getting something back. But these tragic cases show that this belief, however tempting, it can have just devastating physical outcomes. The article goes into the specific reasons these women's bodies just failed. It wasn't just the injection, like you said.
Right.
It was that their systems were already, and this is the author's phrasing, unfit for the load, just completely overwhelmed before they even got to the clinic. This is where that deeper physiological reality kicks in, isn't it? It points to a foundational issue.
Absolutely. The body's internal environment, its baseline state, was already weak. It's like, imagine trying to run a marathon when you're already sick, exhausted, haven't slept.
Yeah, terrible idea.
Right. That's kind of the scenario the authors paint. These bodies were operating at a huge deficit already, extremely vulnerable.
And the article really lists the specifics, the conditions that led to this state. And it paints this picture of modern life that honestly might feel pretty familiar to a lot of people listening. Like, these women were reportedly living daily with exposure to toxic air.
Yeah.
Just breathing it in.
Yeah, day in, day out.
And here's one detail that really jumped out at me. Sleeping every night in oxygen-deprived, airtight rooms. Which sounds extreme, but you think about our modern homes sealed up tight. Maybe not so uncommon, especially in cities.
That's a really important point. We often don't think about our indoor air quality that way.
Right. And so their bodies were already, the article says, saturated with toxins. Their immunity was low. And their metabolic systems, the body's way of processing things, cleaning things up, they were basically collapsing, barely working.
Wow.
And here's the really crucial, heartbreaking part from the source. No one told them this. They went into these procedures thinking, presumably, that their bodies were fine, ready for it, not realizing how fundamentally weakened their internal environment already was. Just a massive blind spot.
So you can imagine, when these filler substances were introduced, things that normally the body should absorb, break down, get rid of, They didn't act like rejuvenators. Instead, the authors say they became the last straw, the tipping point for systems already right on the edge.
The body just couldn't handle the extra burden.
Exactly, couldn't process it. And this really raises a huge question, doesn't it? How much are we, unknowingly hurting our body's basic resilience? Through these subtle, everyday things, the air we breathe constantly, the quality of our sleep, or lack thereof, it forces you to look way beyond just the cosmetic procedure itself and think about the whole picture of health, not just the surface.
And that idea that the whole system matters, that our daily environment is that critical, it really pushes back against how we usually react to stories like this. Because, the common response is often, oh, that's terrible, but it's just a one-off.
Right, an individual case.
An anomaly. It won't happen to me, is how we cope maybe. Distance ourselves.
Yeah.
But then the article makes this claim that just stops you in your tracks. It's actually kind of unsettling. The source gives this really powerful counter-argument. The authors say this is an accident. They state it very clearly. It's inevitable. That just changes everything, doesn't it? It goes from being a rare tragedy to something almost predictable under certain circumstances.
It does. And this concept of inevitability in the article, it's quite stark. They argue that unless you have what they call a toxic-free environment, which they also describe quite poetically as an earthly paradise or
earthly paradise.
Yeah, without that foundation, they argue every woman seeking youth through these cosmetic procedures is essentially gambling with her life.
Every woman. That's a huge statement.
It is, and they're not just talking about the milk injections. The source is explicit. This applies across the board. Hyaluronic acid, Botox, collagen, you name it, all the common stuff.
So it's not about the specific substance then?
Not primarily, no. The fundamental problem, they clarify, is that the body's ability to process things, its metabolic capacity, is already, quote, ruined by long-term toxic air. Meaning its power to break down and eliminate substances is just severely weakened.
Right.
And its ability to repair itself, that's reduced to what they call an outward illusion.
An outward illusion, meaning it looks okay on the surface.
Exactly. Any improvement you see is temporary, superficial. It doesn't reflect real deep healing or vitality inside.
So the procedures are trying to fix the outside, while the internal engine for handling it and actually recovering is already sputtering or broken.
Precisely. That's the core of their argument about inevitability.
That is, that's a very sobering thought. That the youth or beauty we see or chase might just be a mask, not backed by actual cellular health.
Yeah.
So, okay, if that's the situation, what does this mean for you listening right now? For the choices you make about your own well-being, especially when we're just constantly bombarded with messages about quick fixes for aging. It really makes you rethink where you put your trust, your money, your energy when it comes to health and looking good. If these external fixes aren't the answer or are even dangerous, what is the real path?
Well, this leads us to what the authors propose as the true choice. And honestly, it's surprisingly simple, almost anticlimactic, given the context of high-tech procedures. What they suggest, believe it or not, is that the real key to beauty and health isn't plastic surgery, it's not injections, it's breathing. Breathing. And they don't just mean it metaphorically. It's presented as a fundamental shift in how we should approach this. It challenges our whole conventional playbook for anti-aging and vitality. It's about optimizing the absolute most basic, life-giving function our bodies perform.
Breathing as the true choice. That definitely turns things on their head. But okay, the article doesn't just leave it there. You're like, just breathe. Does it give specifics?
Oh, absolutely. It gets very specific, very actionable. It's not about buying fancy creams or anything like that. It's about making real, fundamental changes to your environment and your habits.
Okay, like what?
They suggest, for instance, that every single night you should aim for deep, oxygen-rich, non-toxic, and stress-free sleep.
Okay, deep, oxygen-rich, non-toxic, stress-free sleep. That sounds amazing, but how?
Well, think about what that implies. Actively creating that state. It's about consciously designing your sleep space, not just the mattress, but the air in the room. Minimizing toxins, reducing stressors you bring into that space.
Right, making it a sanctuary.
Exactly. And they also emphasize making sure that every breath you take is actually helping your cells detoxify and repair. So it's not just passive breathing to stay alive, it's breathing to heal. Active, conscious breathing. And finally, they recommend creating a room environment where you wake up feeling good. Not swollen, not feeling older, not feeling out of sorts. Taking control of your immediate surroundings, especially where you rest and recover. Because that recovery period, that sleep period, that's where the real work of rejuvenation happens, according to the source.
So it's about building that foundation.
Precisely. And these aren't just, nice ideas. They're about actively creating that earthly paradise that who the authors talk about.
Right.
They frame it not as some impossible dream, but as a tangible, achievable state that's absolutely crucial for real vitality, a place where your body can genuinely heal itself.
So that environment becomes the prerequisite for health and beauty efforts, not just an optional extra.
That's the shifting perspective they're advocating. Focus on the internal, sustainable well-being first.
This brings us to a really quite poignant metaphor the authors use. They ask us to see these three women not as ghosts, but as our mirrors. It really is.
Yeah.
They argue these women weren't simply overly vain. That's too easy an explanation. Instead, they were driven to a dead end in a world that, crucially, didn't offer them real youth solutions.
Yeah.
So it's less about blaming them and more about reflecting on the systemic problem, maybe a societal failure to provide the right answers.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture they're painting, the authors frame the world's mistake.
Right.
It wasn't that these women wanted to change their faces. The mistake was that no one told them you should first change the air, not your face.
Wow. Change the air, not your face.
Yeah. It really forces you to think critically about what we prioritize, doesn't it? Are we constantly chasing symptoms, putting bandages on things, while totally neglecting the root causes? Are we pouring resources into superficial changes when the fundamental needs for life and health, like clean air, good sleep, are ignored? It's a real challenge to how we collectively think about well-being, a potential misdirection of effort.
Absolutely. And just to be crystal clear here, the authors, their intention isn't to scare people or condemn anyone.
No, they're very clear on that.
They actually state, this is a reminder, not a threat. The goal is to prevent failure and offer a path to, quote, truly become beautiful and save your life.
Right.
They're not even necessarily saying never get cosmetic procedures. That's not the point. What they're arguing for is a fundamental shift inside us, in our approach, where the body's internal state, its ability to breathe clean air, to detoxify, to repair itself during sleep that has to come first.
Build the strong foundation.
Exactly. Build that healthy foundation first. Then any choices you make about appearance later are likely much safer and maybe even more effective because the body can actually handle them. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's really try to crystallize the core message here.
Yeah.
True beauty, lasting youth. According to this source, it's not really found on an operating table. It's not in a syringe. It's deeply, fundamentally influenced by the basic environment we give our bodies, especially the air we breathe, the quality of our rest. And the surprising takeaway for many of us, I think, is just how critical it is to actively cultivate that toxic-free, oxygen-rich environment, particularly right in our own homes where we spend so much time.
Yeah.
It's about creating that inner sanctuary, that space for our bodies to actually thrive and heal from, well, the stresses of modern life.
And maybe we can leave you with this powerful thought from the authors, something to really consider as you go about your day, and especially tonight. They write, from tonight onward, don't let your youth lie on the operating table. Please first let your soul sleep in a space where it can breathe.
Wow. Let your soul sleep in a space where it can breathe.
It's a call to action, isn't it? For a really profound internal shift in how we think about our most basic need, rejuvenation.
It really is a call to action. So maybe the question to leave you with is this. What small but impactful changes could you make to start cultivating your own earthly paradise right where you are? Maybe starting with your sleep environment tonight. Something to think about. The choice, and maybe more importantly, the breath. They're yours.